Now, before we get into today's video, I want you all to click the link below and join my email list right now. There's a whole lot of great content that I want to send to you, but YouTube doesn't let me show you. Must be systemic racism. They deleted a bunch of our videos, but that will not stop me from telling you the truth. So join my email list right now. The link is in the description. Now, 2/3 of Biden voters have a dim view of the economy. That's the problem. Now, here's my question to these 2/3 of Biden voters who have a dim view of the economy. You Biden voters, who in your policy said, I disagree with Joe Biden? I disagree with the way Joe Biden has shut down Keystone Pipeline. Did anybody say anything about that? No. I disagree with Joe Biden opposing fracking. Anybody say anything about that? No. I disagree with Joe Biden denying leases for federal properties for oil and gas drilling. Anybody say anything about that? No. Anybody say have a problem with Joe Biden increasing corporate tax and a 15% minimum tax on the left? No. Anybody have a problem with what's going on our borders? Have you heard any Democrat, other than those on the Texas border, a handful of House Democrats, complain to Joe Biden about this? No. It wasn't until Abbott began putting some of these illegal aliens on buses and sending them to places like New York and D.C. that some politicians who are Democrats, notably the mayors of New York and D.C., complain about the borders, but only then they complain about the behavior of Texas Governor Abbott. They did not pick up the phone and call the White House and say, we got to get our handle on all of this. You need to reimpose the Trump policies because the borders were more secure than they've been in decades. No. So one more time, here's my question to you Democrats and independents who are watching my show, and I know you watch and I appreciate it. Name the young, dynamic politician to whom Bill Maher and the Brit referred to. Name the politician who's young, who's dynamic, who opposes what Joe Biden has done. All the ones who are in the squad part of the Democratic Party, if anything, want him to spend even more. Piers Morgan is the guy that I was thinking about just now. Now, Larry Summers, the aforementioned former Secretary of Treasury under Bill Clinton, is warning, even though Bill Maher says inflation is down, Summers is warning it ain't out.
So I think it would be a mistake for anyone to radically revise their view of the situation based on these numbers.
I don't think we ought to radically revise our view about inflation just because it grew 0% in July. Year to year, it is still 8.5%. Year to year, as I've said, gasoline prices still up 44%. And year to year, the average family is now spending $717 more for the same goods and services the family bought last year. Not good.
This report's a lot like the report in March, which was followed by very discouraging reports afterwards, making the optimists from March look wrong several months later.
So don't do a victory lap just yet because of 0% inflation in July. We got a long way to go before it gets down to the level it was during the Trump administration, although he won't mention the T word.
So I'm not saying that that's going to happen again, but I think we just need to maintain a sense of uncertainty and wait for the data as it comes. I still think we have a very serious inflation problem in this country. I don't think that inflation problem is going to go away of its own volition. And so I think we're likely to have some quite turbulent times ahead.
You see how painful it is for him to say this? This is a Democrat, served in the Clinton administration, even supported the recent bill that Joe Manchin and Sinema signed on to. I don't think we ought to get too heady about just 1 month of 0% inflation. There's still some headwinds. We still got some problems. Doesn't he seem like a guy whose shoe is 2 sizes too small? I hate to criticize Biden, but we ought not be doing victory laps because the average family is still hurting. Now, regarding this recent bill that was passed, Jamie Raskin, who's on the January 6th committee, was asked specifically what parts of the Inflation Reduction Act will in fact reduce inflation.
As soon as the act goes into effect, I hope that all of the provisions will begin to work. I know that those who've been blaming President Biden for the inflation going up are now giving President Biden all the credit for inflation going down. So we're moving things in the right direction already.
And what parts of the bill do you think will quickly work on that specifically?
Next question.
Oh, okay, it's called the Inflation Reduction Act. And what parts of the bill will in fact reduce inflation? Even Bernie Sanders said it won't reduce inflation. When Bernie Sanders is agreeing with the Wharton School of Economics, it's a sign of the apocalypse. So what part of the Inflation Reduction Act will in fact reduce inflation? Next question. And as I mentioned, the average family is now paying $1,717 a month for the same goods and services.
Well, everyday Americans certainly feeling the heat of inflation, while a new report reveals that inflation is costing the average American $717 a month.
What? And that is why Larry Summers said, well, I just don't think we may have this for Well, the new GDP statistics are in, and they show that we are indeed in a recession. Whether the Biden administration calls it a recession or not, most Americans think our economy is heading the wrong way. We are in a recession. Inflation, a 40-year high right now. And if all your money is in the market or tied to the US dollar, you're messing with fire. Meanwhile, precious metals like gold are doing exactly what they should do.
So what do I do?
Hedge against inflation by visiting LarryForGold.com and get your free information kit on how to diversify and protect your savings with precious metals from Birch Gold Group. They've got an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and thousands of satisfied customers. Gold is the right investment to make right now. Visit LarryForGold.com and get real help from Birch Gold today. Again, visit LarryForGold.com to claim your free, no-obligation information kit on how to protect your hard-earned savings with gold. Now, Bill Maher and his guests were talking about whether or not Joe Biden should run, and in saying that Joe Biden shouldn't run, he pointed out all the wonderful things that Joe Biden has been doing recently.
I think, unfortunately, politics are also just very much about optics. And with my generation, The optics of this presidency haven't been inspiring and exciting.
Falling off the bike. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't love this.
Farting in front of the Queen.
Okay, can I just stop right here? Bill Maher's an interesting guy, isn't he? A lot of people who are conservatives saying, Bill Maher's come around, Bill Maher's come around. Every now and then he'll say something so obviously necessary to be said that people talk about him coming around. What he's a critic of is the woke culture. Why? Because he knows if he's not critical of the woke culture, he's next. He has said all sorts of demeaning things about women, whether using the C word in one of his routines, referring to Sarah Palin, calling Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann two dumb T words. He referred to Trig, the son that Sarah Palin has with Down syndrome, as a retard. So he knows, because of what he called his own potty mouth, he's next if the woke culture, cancel culture comes after him. So he's been saying things, in my opinion, for self-preservation. But at the heart, he is a tax, spend, regulate Democrat, climate change alarmist, believes health care for everybody, believes that taxes ought to be raised except when it comes to him. Here's what he also said.
I know.
So you're just beating it to me. I don't even
I know. I mean, there's going to be some senior moments. Get over it. You know, there just are.
It's true. But
he's going to show up without pants someday. It's just going to happen.
It's going to be some senior moments. He's going to show up without pants. Do you really think that Joe Biden is underwater because of senior moments? He's underwater with every major demographic group except blacks, and he's barely above water with blacks. Is it because he fell off his bike? Is it because he expelled gas in front of the Queen? It's because we've had year-to-year 8.5% inflation. It's because year-to-year gas prices are up 44%. And people who are paying attention to the borders realize we've got over 2.5 million people who are in the country now illegally. We say over 2.5 million. We have no idea. Counting gotaways and counting those who've never been encountered, we have no idea. The borders have never been this bad. And because of the way he pulled out of Afghanistan, and yesterday was the first year anniversary of that pullout, it encouraged Putin to invade Ukraine. And then what did Biden call it? The Putin inflation. Well, had you not pulled out of Afghanistan and emboldened Putin, he not would have invaded Ukraine. He would not have had a chance to have layered on what you call the Putin inflation. So for all these reasons, and the way this government was shut down, and all these varying theories about whether or not we should be taking COVID. If you get COVID, we'll talk about that later on. You won't contract COVID, Biden said. For all these reasons, people are concerned about their future. Consumer confidence is low. Has nothing to do with Joe Biden stumbling and fumbling. If inflation was low, if people were secure about their jobs, if gas prices were not through the roof, nobody would give a rip about Joe Biden falling off his bicycle. So please knock it off.
And you're good.
For a generation of young people who have just grown up in a partisan hellscape for as long as we can really remember politically, a career politician and someone who's older and been in that world is maybe not the most
But that's why he got this done.
Person.
But that's why he finally got something done.
Isn't that why
because he was an older politician.
That's why he got stuff done. That's why he finally got stuff done. And here's where Bill Maher talks about the bill that Biden is going to sign right now. It's not as big as Build Back Better. Remember, Larry Summers, the Treasury Secretary under Bill Clinton, said that Build Back Better and all the money that he spent was going to be inflationary. He didn't listen. Steve Ratner, economic advisor to Barack Obama, said all the money that he's spending is going to be inflationary. Guess what? All the money that he spent was inflationary. Now we've had back-to-back quarters of negative economic growth, also known as a recession. And here he is raising taxes during a recession. Even Obama said one ought not raise taxes during a recession. And here Bill Maher is bragging about what Biden just now did. As I said, at his heart, Bill Maher is a liberal.
Yeah, that's true.
It is. It just is.
But isn't that
Everybody counted him out when he ran for president. Remember, he was dead in the water.
Yes.
And then he was the nominee. And then he couldn't beat Trump. And then he beat Trump. And then he couldn't get anything done. And he was the worst thing ever. And now he killed.
Okay, now the reason he got the nomination is because Bernie Sanders won the Nevada caucuses. And for one brief shining moment was the front runner of the Democratic Party. And that's when they were scared bleepless because they did not want a self-described Democrat socialist to attempt to defeat the dastardly Donald Trump. So Joe Biden was Mr. Magooing his way there, was considered to be the least non-palatable person on that side. They figured, okay, your job is to defeat Donald Trump, and then we'll put Kamala Harris in there in 2024, and then she can run again in 2028, and we'll be happily ever after. That was the plan. That's why Joe Biden was chosen. And so he wasn't counted out. What happened is there was abject fear on the part of Democrats because they thought for one moment that Bernie Sanders might in fact be the nominee and he could not defeat Donald Trump. Just setting the record straight.
Al-Zawahiri, and inflation is back down, and he got the climate bill passed, and people are...
Inflation is back down, meaning it was zero inflation in July, but year to year, 8.5%. I just read the average family now is spending $717 a month more for the same goods as last year. Now, for somebody who's a multimillionaire like Bill Maher, who I doubt does his own shopping, this is neither here nor there. But for the average America, it bites.
Working, and he's.
But don't you think the smart play actually is? I think Maureen Dowd wrote this last week. The smart play for Biden. I don't think he should run again in 2024
I agree.
for the benefit of the Democrats. I think what he should do is ride this wave he's on now.
Yes.
And say now, actually, I'm not going to run again.
Ride this wave he's on now. Pass another tax and spending bill that's going to make things worse. Done nothing at all about the borders. But after all, we had zero growth in inflation in July, even though year to year, as I said, is 8.5%. Drive this wave off into the sunset and then hand over the reins to somebody else.
And find a young, dynamic person in the Democratic Party that he can get behind, and then they got a good chance.
Find a young, dynamic person in the Democratic Party that we can get behind. Piers is not from here. So let me just do this one more time. That young, dynamic person is Kamala Harris. Oh, I know, oh, great Eldersky, that her numbers are lower than Joe Biden's. Oh, I know she's making a bunch of vapid statements. Oh, I know that she was put in charge of getting to the root causes of the borders. Oh, I know she was put in charge of going to Ukraine. Oh, I know she's been stumbling and fumbling and saying all sorts of silly kinds of things. I know. But remember why she was put there. Because she is a female who identifies as black. And don't forget, when James Clyburn, the congressman from South Carolina, after Bernie Sanders won the Nevada caucuses, and next up were the South Carolina primaries, and everybody then coalesced behind Joe Biden, he coalesced behind Joe Biden and told Joe Biden the next member of the Supreme Court has to be a black female. Well, it was clear the next VP had to be a person of color. That's why Kamala Harris was chosen. And remember, Kamala Harris ran for president. Oh, yeah, she dropped out before the contest. She dropped out before the Iowa caucus. But that's not the point. The point is she is very, very ambitious. She wants to be president. And blacks are the most loyal part of the Democratic base. Black females even more loyal than black men. And she enjoys a nearly 70% approval rating among blacks. And the poll was not broken down by gender, the one I saw in the LA Times, but clearly black females like him even more than black men. She's probably in the mid-70s among black females. And they will be livid if it is perceived that she's been drop-kicked in favor of another politician, especially a white male like Gavin Newsom or Mayor Pete. Are you kidding me? Now, they won't vote Republican. They won't vote at all. And you look at some of the early primaries, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, where black Democrats are 50% or more of the voters in the primaries. So they need black voters. They need black female voters. And those black female voters will be livid if it is perceived that Kamala Harris has been drop-kicked. How do I know this? I read a lot of black media. There's a publication called The Griot. And you know how people are laughing at Kamala Harris because of her cackle? They consider that to be trivial. Worse, they consider it to be sexist. Even worse, they consider it to be racist. Now, Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana had another take on Joe Biden.
I don't mean to be unfair, but it's been cringeworthy. He has mismanaged Congress, mismanaged COVID, mismanaged crime, mismanaged the border, mismanaged Afghanistan, mismanaged the economy, mismanaged inflation, and forfeited America's energy independence. Now, President Biden obviously disagrees with that. He says he's doing a swell job, and as evidence, he offers the opinions of experts like Kamala Harris and Prince Harry. But I don't think most Americans are persuaded. I don't think the American people hate President Biden. I certainly don't. But I think a majority of the voters in our country at this juncture think he would be better off selling catheters on late night TV than serving as president of the United States. And those are just the facts.
Now, I love Senator Kennedy, the way he phrases things, but I would add an addendum. Yes, he's mismanaged the borders. He's mismanaged the economy. He's mismanaged inflation. He's mismanaged energy independence. He's mismanaged rhetoric on crime. All those things are true. Is there any policy position that he's taken that his party disagreed with? I mentioned the spending. I mentioned Larry Summers, Steve Ratner, both warning that the spending was going to be inflationary. Did anybody in his party object to it? Anybody? No. Is anybody in his party accusing Joe Biden of being a climate change alarmist? No. Is anybody in his party objecting to the assault on oil and gas? Remember, one of the first things he did was to stop new leases on federal property for oil and gas. He opposes fracking. He's talking about energy independence. He's urging people to get off of gasoline-powered cars and buy EVs, even though apparently he doesn't have one. Is anybody objecting to that? No. And when I hear people talk about somebody younger, more dynamic, like who? Like Mayor Pete? Has Mayor Pete objected to any of the policies that have caused this near double-digit inflation, that have caused gas prices to be this high? No. So what is it other than Joe Biden stumbling off his bicycle and misreading a teleprompter or people objecting to on the left? They're not objecting to his policies, and that's the problem. Hope you enjoyed that video. The full show is available to watch right now on Epoch TV. Just click the link in the description below to learn more, because we've got a country to save.